Hello and happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining Best for Women Live. My guest today is Monique Bryan, and she's going to be joining us here to talk about all things that are related to personal branding, which I'm really excited about. Perfect. I see. While we wait for her to join, for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Brooke Gordon, and the purpose of Best for Women is to talk about leadership, business development, and stress management. And we are going to be touching on all of those things today, and I am so excited. Hello and welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I am fabulous. I'm so excited you're here. I really look forward to this.
Yes, I mean, we've been trying to make this happen for a bit now, so I'm excited too.
I know. And it's awesome because for everyone who's tuning in, Monique and I we spoke probably about 3 years ago at least. Right?
Life.
I know. Right. And actually what was really amazing is I first came to talk to you about personal branding, and true to form, one of the things we decided is that what I was looking for wasn't the best fit. And you recommended me to someone else. And she would put me on that next step of my path to help me with my messaging and figuring out some pieces internally. It was the perfect, and it just goes to show for everyone who's like, oh, I feel so sick saying no. No, saying no doesn't mean no. Sometimes saying no means not right now. And then here we are. We've stayed in touch online all this time and celebrating in the background. I know, right? It's awesome. I love it. So I'm super excited about this topic because it's so near and dear to my heart.
Oh, I love this. And you know what's like, we have to have a conversation offline. I was like, who did I send you to? Like,
Okay, we will talk about that offline. It's great. It was perfect. But it was awesome because it was also part of that messaging. I was figuring myself out at the time, right? And I reached out to a couple different people. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how sharp and clear your messaging can do exactly that. It can help you guide people to you and to the right other people, right? That's all part of the personal brand because it's clarity.
Clarity is everything.
All right, Monique, I'm done talking. Tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about the company, and then we're going to just dive into an awesome conversation.
Okay. So my name is Monique Bryan. I'm a personal branding coach and strategist, and I help the women behind the business step out into the spotlight and claim all their juice for the world to see. Because one of the key things I find that women business owners are struggling with is being the face of their company. They are like, my business should speak for itself. My services are great. However, I know I want to do speaking. I know I want to establish myself as a thought leader. I know one day I want to write a book, but I haven't been investing in creating a digital footprint out here online. So nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows what I stand for. And I don't know how to do that because that's not my area of specialty. I was like, perfect, come on down and let's go get it handled. So I am a serial entrepreneur. My background is in fashion design and business development. I am a business coach at the heart of it because I do not work with influencers. I work with business owners, entrepreneurs specifically. And I have a podcast. It's called the Juicy CEO podcast. I'm very active over on social media. So if anyone wants to find me, you can find me. There's no way you cannot find Monique and what you need to know about Monique online. And that is my goal for my clients too. The idea is to be really Googleable, right? Because more people are meeting us online than they will ever meet us in person. And the first thing they're going to do when they hear about you or whatever it is that you do, or someone talks about you in a room, exactly, they're going to look up your social or they're going to Google you online. And they are going to automatically be like, is this person somebody who I want to know more about, strictly in the first 3 to 6 seconds of looking you up, right?
100%. What I really love about that is in conversations I've been having with business owners recently is this exactly, right? It's, well, I don't want to sell online. I don't want to invest in all of the social media. I don't want to invest in like ads. I want to have good conversation in my network, and I'm really more, I do like a face-to-face. I don't care. You still have a place to send them, because there's a whole back end to this. There's the finding you, but really there's the referral. Right. And when you have a referral from someone, you want that to land somewhere. You want to say, listen, I love Monique. I love everything about her. She's going to be so perfect for you. Here's how you can find her, see whether or not it resonates, and then give her a call. Right. And it's that see if it resonates piece, right? So my very first podcast was exactly that. I coach, right? I coach women. We talk the whole time. That's what we do. We have conversation. And I wanted people to be able to say, here's my voice. Here's what I sound like. Here's the type of advice that I give. If this fits with you, then let's jump in. If you're like, oh no, then super, perfect. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. It's so important to be able to align with people who align with your values, right? And that is, the whole thing around business right now. It's people want to know who they're giving their money to. So the hiding behind the brand or the business or the service is just not, it's just not how things are done anymore. People just in today's climate, people want to know, are you going to be canceled tomorrow? Like, are you who you say you are? And a lot of people are getting caught, right? Like they're getting caught now, when their PR people aren't, making them all glossy and writing the things that they should be saying, they're getting caught with who they really are. And people are starting to be like, I used to buy this person's book. Like I used to invest in their programs. I used to go to their events, and they're not who they said they are. And now I look like an idiot because I've spent my hard-earned money with you and I've recommended you to other people.
Right. And now I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed
Exactly.
that I put my faith in you, because now you're not going to necessarily trust me that I can make good judgment of character.
Right. And now you're not even going to want to invest in anybody else because you've been burned before. And I had
100%.
someone on a call a few weeks ago say this to me, Monique, I think you're amazing. I think this could really work for me. We were talking about her joining a program with me, and she was like, but I'll be honest, I've been burned before. Mm-hmm. And we had a conversation online with a few different people. And really, if you go to a new person after you've been burned, the reality is you're ready to make a move, do your research, right? So you're not coming to the call with oh, I've been burned, so I'm not going to make a move, because now you've kind of wasted everybody's time, really. But the only way people can make that judgment call is when they Google you, they find what they need to find. They can reference people. Like even for me, like if I highlight my clients all the time. So if you want to know about me, you can go actually reach out to my clients directly without my permission and find out what the real deal is. Like,
you know who they are.
That's important, right? People need to know, they need that social proof. There's like the what I say I do, the who I say I am, and then there's my actions. One of the biggest compliment you can give me is when they meet me in person is you are in person who you are online. Oh, that's so amazing.
Right? Fun story. So my very first ever client that I got, total stranger. So not someone that I knew through networking, not someone who'd been introduced, just she found me. And so I asked her, how did you find me and why did you choose me? And she said, I really valued what you stood for and I felt like our values aligned. And I was like, got a little teary, because, you put thought into it, and you try to make sure that you're consistent with yourself in what you write and who you are online. And then we actually got to meet in person last week. And it was awesome. It was like, I can't wait to hug you. And what we ended up having more conversation was her values. And it was really awesome for me to see where the things were that we actually align on, having that conversation. And then the second part that was really beautiful was then helping her start to figure out, okay, so what is it that you want to do with this? Now, this is a leader. She's not a business owner, because that's my area of expertise, working with leaders. But it's still so many of the same principles, right? You want to have your own personal brand. So tell me a little bit more. You primarily work with business owners. And so what are some of the conversations that you're having with them? We talked about not getting out in front of camera, right? Because it's like, whoa, like I don't feel comfortable.
Please don't show me to the world. But
Yes.
what's interesting is once they know what they're going to say and they feel confident about stepping out, then they're like, I'm out here, right? So it really there's a transformation that needs to happen in order for that to take place. So some of the conversations we're having is, what is it that I talk about? What do I talk about here online? It's like one thing to be in front of the camera. It's another thing to share your thoughts. So that, a lot of people think because they see people who naturally come out online, like, oh, you're good at that. So you know what to talk. You can just talk on the fly. But the people who are really good at it have been practicing in the background, are prepared, have their talking points. They stick in their lane. Like you and I aren't over here talking about, the best burger joint in the city, or, like where should we, fly next in our next travel destination, which we could. But we're talking about something very specific. And I know how to talk about the thing that I've been studying. These people have studied what they do. They're good at what they do. So what I do with clients is we actually whittle down, like, what are your top 6 content buckets that you're going to, I like to say, the hill you're going to live and die on. You're not going to talk about everything under the sun. There's a lot you can bring to the table, yes, and your clients will benefit from that after they've signed on with you. It's like a beautiful surprise. But out the gate, they need to be able to put you in a box in their mind. They need to be able to say, I have this problem. This person solves this problem. When I'm ready, I'm going to buy from this person. If they don't know how to do that, then you will be forgotten. So I like to say this, when people say they're business coaches, for example, and where I started, it was tough to be like, especially when you're starting out, I'm a new business coach. You're a business coach. Why come to me when you have this person who has way more clout, way more social media, everything? And I was like, there wasn't something specific that I was narrowing in on. Even though I delivered something unique, they didn't know that yet. So it wasn't until a friend actually said to me, Monique, I need you to focus on personal branding because everyone else knows you do that but you. You're out here talking and launching this and doing this, but you focus a lot on perception. You focus a lot on how does somebody look? How does somebody sound? How do they come across? What are they saying? How are they saying it? My whole, like, one of the things I say is, don't look a hot mess express and expect to be charging a top dollar. They're like, you have a specific point of view. And at the time, I didn't even know what personal branding was a thing. So I started studying it and looking at the pioneers in this industry and seeing, like, this is the future. This is where we're at and where we're going. It's not a nice to have, it's a necessity. And I was like, oh, this is a growing industry. This is my lane. I love to talk about this all day. So it totally made sense. So the other thing people that I'm talking to business owners about right now around their personal brand is what do I do first? What do I do first?
Oh, the order of operations.
My goodness. It's always like, people come, they're like, I've got this website. I'm always like, no, don't build a website before you know who you are.
No, so far down the line. It's not about the aesthetics.
Such an expensive investment. But I understand it because it's a tangible representation.
And you want people to land somewhere. You want people.
You're like, I look professional if I have a website, though, Monique. But they don't realize that it's, first of all, no one will find your website if you never send them to it. It's not something they just find. You're not an SEO genie, right? Anymore. So you don't need to do that. But the other thing is you actually can hurt your brand by putting up a website too soon that is not aligned with who you are. If you don't know how to write copy, if you don't know how to structure a website so people know how to find you, and you, like, there's so many people building their own websites. It's scary. I'm like, these look very crazy, guys. Even myself, who can build websites, I do not build my own website. Leave it to professionals who know how to do this. So what I created over the last few years, I had a lot of, where do I start? What do I do next? How do I position myself as a speaker? It was like, okay, they don't know the steps. So I created a juicy personal brand roadmap. It's got 5 levels to building out your brand, and don't skip the levels is what I say. So I have a quiz. You take the quiz, you figure out where you are on the map, and then you can see these are the ingredients I need to have. These are the ingredients that I already have. And these are maybe some of the blind spots that I have and that I'm missing.
Hey, nice.
So that was a huge help for me and for the clients, because when they come to me, I already know where you're on the map. You know where you're on the map, and you're like, okay, Monique, I'm over here. I'm just building my vision, but I want to be over here where I'm actually pitching to the media. I'm being interviewed. I'm on podcasts, and they get to see the gap in between. And I'm like, great, all this on the map, this is what we're going to work on. So you go and have the thing that you want. So those are some of the conversations we're having right now.
Love that. And okay, there's a couple things in here that I really want to pick up on. We've talked about values. We've talked about vision. We've talked about presence. And this is one that I think is just really valuable, because your style and my style are totally different. And yet I love listening to you. I love all the content that you put out. Would I put out the same content? No. I'm in like a cute little doll t-shirt today, right? But it's in my color, right? And it's super cozy. The thing that I love is two things. I love being comfortable, and I want to make sure that I come across as being approachable, right? That's part of my personal brand. The other piece to it is I don't love being on camera, contrary to what most people think. So I have an armor that I put on. This is Cheekbone Beauty Lipstick. It's my absolute favorite.
I've got cheekbone liner on.
Oh,
I've got cheekbone
beautiful.
mascara. Go cheekbone.
Oh, 100%, right? And I feel so much better when I have that. And normally I'll have a piece of jewelry from my favorite designer, Glam Jewels, somewhere on me, today's bracelet. And these are the things that make me feel like I'm ready to be on camera, right? I have long since discovered that my hair does its own thing, and I'm just not going to fight it. It just is what it is. Doesn't matter what, like, yeah, every branding photo, there's this weird little thing off to, and nobody can fix it. And I'm just like, that's it. I've let it go. My hair does its own thing, and I can't tame it. And it doesn't matter. It's straight. It's fly away. It just is. And so am I going to invest? Are you going to find me a lot of makeup? No, because I don't wear it on a daily basis, right? So these are but these are all conscious choices that I have made over time. And I talk about health. And so for me to be in a lot of makeup doesn't make sense, because I'm also doing videos about meditation, and I'm doing videos about stress management. And so it doesn't make sense for me, but it makes perfect sense for other people. So I love the personalization of, like, what is your vision of what you want to be known for and what you want to do? A little bit about how do you plan on doing that? What are you comfortable with? I also love that you're talking about the fact that it's a journey. You don't just get there from here.
Everybody wants to jump to the final thing where they're on a TEDx stage. It's like, I always like to look at it as almost like manufacturing, right? Because I used to be in the manufacturing industry. So I'd be like, okay, you've got this beautiful t-shirt, you want to sell a ton of them, wonderful. But what happens tomorrow when the Bay says, I need 15,000 t-shirts? You've pitched to the Bay. You're like, I can do that. You're like, I want to be in the Bay, but you didn't have the infrastructure to support $15,000 t-shirts. And now you've lost the business. Your reputation has taken a hit. And now, like, they're not coming back to you.
Nope.
You know, so it's the same thing with your personal brand. Don't shine a spotlight on a hot mess express. Build the foundation. Get ready. Be ready for when the interview comes. You know, you do get asked to be on a TEDx stage, because now when someone finds you, they can go to your website and maybe purchase something for you, or, you know, contact you. You have things set up in place to capture all the juice that you're going to be generating. Right? People don't think about those parts. They're just like, I want it, and I want it now. And I like how you were talking about what's right for you in terms of your presence is different from what's right for me, and the comfort level. And that's another piece too, where people are really fearful that they're like, am I going to have to put on some kind of mask to look the part? And I always say, like, put your best polished foot forward. Your elevated version of you, when you do the thing that a lot of people are going to be looking at. You don't need to look like Monique when you hire Monique. You don't need to look like Brooke. You need to look like you. And you need to feel comfortable in the you. So just like how you were doing, like, the meditation, like, no, it would be ridiculous for you to be in full makeup, a suit, and, you know what I mean, some heels, talking about, let me take my heels off and go do meditation with you guys. You're like, they'd be like, I am so unclear. What is this going on.
Right. And 100%. But it's an intentional choice.
Yes. It wasn't by
And
default.
no, and I think this is a piece when you talk about hot mess express. I love that. And I think I want to dig into a little bit more about what does that look like? Yes, it's the organic, unintentional. This is, this is it. But tell me a little bit more about what that looks like. Like, how do you know that how would you recognize that you are a hot mess express and might need some help for those listening who are like, oh, shoot.
You know what? A lot of people don't know they're hot mess express. So here's what I like to say.
No.
If you're not 100% sure, go and ask a friend who loves you.
Oh, that's really kind.
Because what's interesting is, inside of working with clients and when we work on their like image, what they wear and all of these things. One thing I learned early, because I love fashion, I love to style, all that stuff. I know that there's things that Monique loves to wear that do not translate well on stage, do not translate well when she's walking on a stage, trying not to distract the audience by what she's wearing, but rather what she's saying. I had to get that information from one. You can only really know once you show up on camera and you look and you're like, what is that? That looks insane. Or someone else who's actually professional to point it out to you. I've had stylists who, and even myself, who works a lot on style, I've had stylists being like, Monique, don't wear that. That doesn't work. I might love it, but it doesn't work for what it is I'm trying to accomplish at the time. Right?
It's still a tool.
Exactly.
It's a tool, and it has a place to be comfortable and to make you feel beautiful in that moment. Like you feel so comfortable, you feel beautiful from the inside, and that'll telegraph through. Please don't get me wrong. But there are times when that's not the right tool. For example, and I'll give you a beautiful example of this. I used to love sweater sets. In theory, I still do. Like, do you know the kind of...
I hate sweater sets
I love sweater sets. I know. I don't wear them anymore, but I used to. So with the matching like little cardigan that matched they don't really sell them anymore, but this was a while ago. And I was in a position where I was in a leadership role, and I was quite actually literally the youngest at the table. And in fact, most of my staff, they had kids my age. And so one day, I showed up wearing a suit jacket, and I can't even tell you the change. I didn't even wear the suit jacket. I wore it into the room and I put it on the back of my chair because, man, it was hot in that room and I didn't want to sweat, right? And I was nervous because they always made me nervous. Everyone around the table always made me nervous. Every time I had to say something, someone would talk over me. Every time I would give an idea, nothing would happen to it. But then next thing you know, the outcome that I predicted and proposed a solution for, no one wanted to do. And then it would manifest. And then somehow I was responsible for it, right? Because they remembered it was my idea, just wouldn't take any action with me and approve any action going forward. Like, you can't even imagine how frustrating it was. And then I showed up in a suit jacket. Oh, wow. Different people at the table. Brooke, what do you have to say about that? Me? Like, surprised you asked me to leave, right? Now you want to hear from me? Like, what the hell? It changed everything.
It's that perception piece. Perception is reality, and people, as much as they want to fight it and be like, I don't want to subscribe to that. When you know the game, you know how to play the game to win. We're all in it. We are all judging a book by its cover, no matter how brilliant the author. We just are. We're all like that. So why make it easy for people to choose you? Make it easy for people to see you as the authority you want to be seen as. And it does require conscious choice around how you present yourself visually, with your messaging, whether that's written communication, verbal communication, how you show every piece. And that's what really creates a really powerful personal brand, is when there is cohesion at every touch point. Hey, Danielle. So Danielle, I was speaking about stylists. Danielle actually was the stylist who styled me for my very first big speaking on stage engagement.
Amazing. And
it's so amazing to have a professional put it together, knowing your personality, and put something fierce together. And what's interesting is the first thing that someone said to me when I hit the stage was, you look amazing, like from the audience. I hadn't even said anything yet. And I was like, so like you were saying, how you wear something and you feel it from the inside out. I was feeling confident. I just got validation, and now I'm about to go kick this speech's ass, you know? So I love that we're talking about the importance of the visual, the how we show up, and it being, it does need to be authentic to you. And that's a big piece, because if you're uncomfortable, the other person knows you're uncomfortable.
Oh, 100%. You will often find me with a jacket around me. You just won't always find me in a jacket. I run hot. I can't help it.
I
right?
run
one of those
too. I run hot too.
So I will walk in the room with it, and at some point it'll be on the back of my chair.
Yeah, I love that. I run hot too. It's like people don't even realize just how easy it is to just change the perception of how people are seeing you. We have control over our brand. And that's what people fail to understand. You have complete and total control over it, but it is intentionality. If people are out thinking, I don't have a personal brand, you have one, you just have not been paying any attention to it. There are people talking about you in rooms you're not in some shape or form, but you have zero control over it, and you haven't been curating or directing it. So people are just talking,
yeah,
right? And why leave that to chance?
And what I love is your context. Again, your lane. You're looking at business owners who want to move forward, to be thought leaders, to have the website, to have the whole package, right? To be the speaker, all of it. And this applies at every level, because I work with leaders, whether they're owners, but primarily leaders in business. And it's the exact same thing. Where do you want to get to, right? We're talking about alignment of values within the company, different from setting the values for the company, right? You have people who are looking for, what is my personal brand? How do I want to be known as a thought leader in the company, right? What do I want people to come to me for, because I'm the expert at that, right? And is that aligned with what my growth goals are, or is that aligned with what I'm really good at?
Yes.
And that, right? And so it's all of these little pieces that start to fit together. I love that you've got this journey map. I also think of it like a puzzle. Both, right?
Yes.
There's a journey, because the pieces of the puzzle uncover themselves, and then you got to find where they fit in with your total picture.
Yes. And I love how you talk about, like, it's the starting with the end in mind. What are we actually building here? I always start with the end, because that will dictate what order the steps go in, what step happens when. You know, the person who wants to write the book isn't the same person who's trying to get on the stage, if that is what the end goal. Maybe you want both goals, but we can have everything we want, just not at the exact same time. Yes. So what is the goal? What's that thing we're trying to do? Are you trying to launch a new program? Are you trying to find a new client base? Are you trying to build brand awareness so people start to see you as something because you've been hiding out for so long? Whatever it is, we start with that. Then we do the building blocks. You're going to need all the blocks, but what we do first is always dictated by what is that big, juicy end goal that you're looking for. Is it the next 90 days or the next, 6 months?
And I think this is really significant. So I want to pause and just sort of pick back up on that, because so often we do want it all, because we see other people who have it all. We're like, I want what they have, which is awesome. But there actually is a journey. And part of that is you're uncovering pieces, and you're shifting your thinking, and you're figuring out not just what's possible, but what's actually, like, believing that it's possible for you. And that's a shift.
Yes.
And there's a second element to that I wanted to touch on, which is the sustainability piece. You actually don't want it all at the same time, because it'll crush you from a time and energy, and you will end up with a health crisis, because that's what happens, right? We can
100%.
only sustain so much. And so I love that you actually work with business owners and show them that there's a journey, because that journey, like any other, whether it's a trip, a marathon, whatever analogy you want, it takes time and resources and planning to go on a trip.
Yes, it's this exact same thing. And it's, as business owners, we do want it. I want everything. I want everything now too, right? But I've been there. I've had health crisis. I've been burnt out. I repeatedly put myself in burnout. Like, I don't learn my lesson, and you say you're going to do it different. That's why I have coaches to, like, reel me back in, but we cannot have it all and not just sustain it, but we can't enjoy it. Like, this is supposed to, we forget that this is supposed to be fun. Us building a business or building our thought leadership or going for that promotion or whatever that is, it is supposed to be fun.
And
it
fulfilling.
is supposed to be a fulfilling, enjoyable, something we can look back on and be proud of. But if we're moving so fast with all the things, we miss all of it. We enjoy none of it. We see none of it. And it just makes it a grind. And then what are we really doing?
Okay. I love that. Right. I'm so with you 100% on this, because I think this is really important. And I love that you work with a coach. So you are a coach and you work with a coach. Now, not naming names if you want to, whatever you want to do, but tell me what you've gotten from working with a coach, and why did you decide to work with one? Oh my God.
I don't know where I would be with anytime I don't have a coach, business is not doing well. Like, as the visionaries of what we do, we've got so much going on in our brain of all the things we want to do. We need someone to have no emotional connection to the things that we want, who can give us strategy to go and get the thing that we want, right? So I first started working with a coach when I first started this business, and I was struggling on sales calls. Like, I was just like totally disgruntled, didn't want to have them anymore. I'm like, nobody wants to buy anything, just forget about it. And I told a friend, and she's like, you need a sales coach. I was like, I don't know what that is. She's like, I have one. Go and talk to her. I spoke to her. I was like, I'm not buying anything from you. So just, we can have a conversation. By the first 10 minutes, I bought something. I was like, I need you to help me. And she did. It was a very specific goal we had in mind. And it was, Monique, you don't enjoy sales calls anymore because you don't know how to have one. You don't know how to have one without you feeling icky, making the other feel, you think you're pressuring people. Like, there was just a lot of things. We're not trained to do those things. When I learned to make invitations on a call and be completely detached from the outcome, I started enjoying these conversations. Really, it became market research where people ended up buying things. But I needed someone who was an expert in that space to do that. Then there are so many different coaches for different things, but when I need clarity, when I have a goal, I need a coach to make sure I don't go so far off the range, because new opportunities will present themselves, new idea. As entrepreneurs, we have a new idea every time we take a shower. We're like, oh, that's such a great idea, Monique. You should go and launch that thing. And then you're wondering what the hell you're doing, and people are like super confused. So I have a coach who's like, this is our 6-month goal. This is our 12-month goal. We don't do anything outside of these goals until these goals are reached. I need the accountability. Most people do. I need someone to be like, and not just someone to tell me, someone I gave money to tell me, because I put skin in the game. Why would I pay you for me to go do what I want to do? To just disregard what you say.
Right?
No, right? So I think everybody who is lacking clarity in some area, whether that's a health coach, a business coach, maybe it's a therapist you need, whatever it is, we all need coaches in different parts of our lives. And one of the things I heard is that Oprah has like 5 different coaches. And I always put Oprah like on the pedestal of Holy Grail. I'm like, Oprah knows what she's doing. So if Oprah, who looks like she knows what she's doing, has 5 coaches, Monique, you need to always at least have one. Because if you want to be Oprah status, then you need support. What that said to me is, she's not doing this by herself.
Oh, I was just thinking the same thing. She has it all, but she has it all because she has a team. It's not her by herself. She's a team.
Yes. And we can't get all the things and multiply ourselves 15 times over and have space in our brain for our business, our future, our present, our family, our health, our life. It's just not doable by yourself.
To have it all at one go.
To have it all at one go.
It takes time, a lot longer than you want it to. Yeah.
And it's also just, I find I move faster, smarter with a coach in my corner. The times when I find a coach really benefits is you're struggling with this minute, what seems like a big problem, but usually is really small, but you're obsessing about it. You have no one who actually is further along than you who can be like, no, 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 don't do that, do this. And it's clear and you move forward. So getting over those little humps is like with velocity, like that is the power of coaching, right? Because
yes,
hard,
and
right?
My heart is so full listening to you right now, because yes. And the two things I just want to pick up on that you said that I love so much. Okay, accountability. I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to do it, because all kinds of stuff gets in the way in between. And man, that's hard, right? It is hard. Life just is, the stress comes from, exactly, right? Just getting like knocked about. You think you've got a plan, you think you've got an agenda, and it's just emergency after emergency. But there's another piece that you raised that I think is so beautiful. And that's the idea that there's different coaches with different lanes, right? They're each in different lanes and they're going to bring different value. But when you're working with a coach, it's really to help you stay on track. So I think of some of the CEOs that I've met, and they always have like this one project, and it's strategic. It's always strategic, which is code for, I really wanted to do this thing. It was a total shower moment. And somehow I know it's going to either elevate my brand or it's going to bring in, like, there's always sort of this, it's not clear. The strategy project, it's always not clear. And they know it's not clear, and they're just not going to let go because they've kind of doubled down and invested and they're not ready to cut the ties. And it's so true. So at every level, even as you scale, even as you build that team, you are still going to somehow end up with these like beautiful heart-based projects that you're going to start describing. Oh, it's strategic.
Yeah, this is a strategic for later.
Yeah. And
I have to do it now for plant the seeds for the later.
Which is really important. And I want to bring that in, that having a vault is a beautiful idea of like the parking lot, whatever you want to call it, is when you actually move things to the not right now.
Yeah, that is, I'm like, just write everything down. I have these huge, I can see one over here. There's huge Post-it notes I put all over the house. And I'm like, when I've got the idea, I put it on the note. I put it on the wall. I can pass it a few times a day. And what's interesting about doing that is because I can see it and it's not hiding in a notebook somewhere, I can decide if it's still important like a month from now. Because we have these great ideas, right? And it's not always the time, or it's not always for us. So it's like, you know what Elizabeth Gilbert writes around, like, the idea comes to you, and if you don't do anything with it, it wasn't meant for you, and it goes and bounces onto somebody else.
Yeah, sometimes.
I always thought that was just a beautiful way of saying, you know, there's these ideas floating around in the air, and it may be for you if you take an action with it, but if you don't, it'll move on to somebody else. That's why I always say, like, no one can steal your ideas. If it was meant for you, you'll take action on it and somebody else won't. So I like to put my ideas out where I can see them. And then if it's still resonating with me 3-4 months later, I'm like, oh, this is something. Even a year later, I'm like, oh, you wrote this down. You want this. You want this. How do we make that happen? And usually if you wait, it will then fit into the beautiful map properly versus like sporadic and just like disjointed.
Because your journey's not linear. You're going to hop around a little bit. Sometimes you'll have ideas, but you don't have the infrastructure for it yet. And so beautiful analogy for that. Someone talked about created the telephone, but they needed to put in all the telephone poles and the telephone. Like, you didn't just have magically all the telephones around the world. You had someone invented a telephone, and then they had to start visualizing that. Right? We had some beautiful questions, and I think maybe I'm going to pop it in the chat and see if it's something that you and I can touch on afterwards. It's just, how do you pick a coach? And that's like a whole other topic. And in fact, we touched on a little bit at the very beginning, right? It's about fit and values and just really understanding what their lane is versus what your need is right now. I'd say that's probably the best answer. Is there anything you would add to that?
No, I would definitely say that's the best answer. Also, if you go over to my feed, I just did a reel on this, like the top 5 things you should ask about before hiring a coach or an expert.
Perfect.
So it's like right there on the feed. Go check it out. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, I love that. Time, I can't even believe it. Like flown by.
Wow.
I have loved chatting with you today.
This was so great. Thank you for having me. We could chat forever. We have so many things to catch up on anyways.
We're going to do that for sure.
Yes.
Is there anything you wanted to end with? Anything, any wisdom, any insights, any final thoughts you wanted to share? I know I have a big question.
I would say what I would leave you with is if you do not have a personal brand that people want to buy into, nobody will buy anything that you actually have to sell. I will leave it with that.
Oh, for those of you who are going to watch the replay, rewind and listen to that one more time because wow, that is really sharp. Really, really sharp. I love that. Monique, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being part of the Best for Women network. It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I love that you're doing this work and putting all these stories out here because everybody, we need it. The people need to know what to do, where to get the info. So
100%.
Don't try to do it on your own, ladies.
I'm not even going to add to that. I'm just going to leave that there. It's perfect.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.